لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. If we were to translate this as literally as possible, it means there's nothing like His likeness, and He is the hearing, the seeing. Okay. Nothing is as His likeness. Nothing is like His likeness. Why this strange sounding English? Because in the Arabic itself, there's something highly unusual. Laysa is negation. Ka mithli. Ka mithli. Ka means like, and mithli means like. So it's as if it says there's nothing like His likeness. And this presented a difficulty for a number of people in understanding it, such that we find that most of the scholars of the Qur'an and most of the scholars of language, when they looked at this, they said, this kaf, okay, this kaf here in kamithlihi is extra, i.e. it doesn't carry a meaning. And they said, we have to consider it extra. Why? Because otherwise, it would seem as if we are saying, or as if the verse is saying, that God has a likeness, and then there's nothing like that likeness. Okay, and some non-Muslim critics of the Qur'an have attempted to say that as well. Look, the Qur'an is confused. It says there's nothing like His likeness. That means that He has a likeness. Do you understand? There's nothing like His likeness. Therefore, He has a likeness which itself there's nothing like. So this is the potential problem that can be taken from the apparent meaning of the verse. There was a smaller group of scholars, as Sheikh Draz says, who said, no, there is not a problem from this kaf, the meaning of this kaf. They said, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, it means what it appears to mean, there's nothing like His likeness, but that is only an indirect way of saying that He has no likeness. Because, for example, if I have a likeness, okay, so this is the real Sohaib, and then there is somebody who is like Sohaib, and then I say, this one, there's nothing like him. That's impossible, because if he's like me, then I'm like him. If he is my likeness, then I'm his likeness as well. So to say there's nothing like my likeness means that I don't have a likeness. So this is a way of escaping from the logical difficulty that is presented. However, Sheikh Draz is not satisfied with this, and I happen to agree with him. He's not satisfied with this because it's as if then the Quranic expression has come with this unnecessary complication. Okay, like he says, if you were to ask, who is this? And you say, he's the son of the father of his brother. Yeah, the son of his father of his brother. Why introduce all these complications? Or as the famous saying goes, when they asked Joha, where's your ear? He said, here. Okay, that's an unnecessary complication. It introduces a kind of circularity into the verse which has no benefit. So therefore you're saying, yes, the kaf in kamithlihi, it's no problem, but at the same time there's no benefit, there's no purpose in it. That is the apparent implication of even that second opinion, which said that it's not, that it doesn't result in a difficulty in meaning, which contradicts the Islamic creed, which is clear from so many other verses that God doesn't have a likeness. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ, that there is none who is at His level, who is His equal, or His likeness. So Sheikh Draz gives two explanations for the purpose of the combination of ka and mithli. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. And he prefers the second one and considers it to be more profound. But let's start sensibly with the first one. He says, if the verse had come without the kaf, and it said, لَيْسَ مِثْلَهُ شَيْءٍ, لَيْسَ مِثْلَهُ شَيْءٍ, then one might have understood from this that what is being denied is that God has someone who is His perfect likeness, who is exactly and fully like Him, who has all His qualities and all His strengths and all His perfection. And then if that's the meaning, and we might understand that, for example, from وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ, we might understand it there, that what's being referred to is the perfect likeness. Then a person may imagine after that, maybe God has a partial likeness. Maybe there is somebody like some of the angels or the prophets or the heavenly bodies or phenomena in the universe that share with God in some of His attributes, that are perfect in some of their attributes just like He is perfect in their attributes. An imperfect likeness. That could be understood from the verse if it had said, لَيْسَ مِثْلَهُ شَيْءٍ. So, in order to completely remove that possibility, the kaf came. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Okay? So, not only is there none who is His equal, there is none who is even like an equal to Him. You see now the meaning? Not only does God not have an equal, but there's nothing that is even like an equal to Him. There's nothing which has even some of His perfection, let alone all of it. So subhanAllah, this is a much more profound and beneficial reading of the verse itself, and takes us away from the need of saying this is extra or this is for emphasis only. So if it says that there is none who is like His equal, then a fortiori or min bab al-awla, or more obviously, there is none who is His perfect likeness. If none can even be a 10% likeness, then of course none is a 100% likeness. And that is like the verse in Surah Al-Isra, where God forbids us from saying uff to our parents. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا uff. Don't say uff to them. Obviously, this verse, although it doesn't say, and don't hit them, don't beat your parents, it is obvious that if saying uff, which is so small a word, if that is forbidden, then obviously saying other things which are worse, or even hitting them, is even more prohibited. And that is a way of understanding the logic of this verse that we are looking at. So that is the first explanation that Shaykh Draz gives. The second, where he says that in a way this verse has carried a message and its proof wrapped up into one. The message or the meaning or the purpose of the verse is to say that God does not have an equal. But the means of expression has bound within it the reason and proof why God Almighty cannot have an equal. And he says, for example, in Arabic language, and to an extent we find this in other languages, we find it to some extent in English. If you said to somebody, if you were saying about somebody, that person doesn't lie and he doesn't cheat. Okay? In a way you have almost mentioned those things as if there is a kind of doubt. Maybe he could cheat, but he doesn't. He could lie, but he doesn't. But when you say, someone like him doesn't lie, someone like him doesn't cheat, it means you are praising him for his honesty and his trustworthiness. You're saying someone like him, meaning someone who has his qualities, would never lie. It's impossible for someone that honest to lie. That is the kind of indication that is in this verse. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. It's as if to say that when we know that God Almighty is so perfect in His attributes, someone who is so perfect, it is not possible for them to have an equal or likeness. So it is an inherent quality of godhood, of divinity, of being God, that there's nothing like Him. That there cannot be two who are divine. That there cannot be two who are perfect in the way that God has all the attributes of perfection and beauty. So this verse, in this understanding, has carried within it the indication of why we refute the idea that there is a likeness to God. Compare this with the other argument which says, and this is a Quranic argument as well, and we mentioned this one just earlier, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. We mentioned this in the context of how the Qur'an appeals to the heart and mind together. If there had been gods in existence other than God, then the heaven and earth would have been corrupted, would have fallen apart. This is to say, if there were more than one God, if God had a likeness, then we would see the effects of that in the creation. Because one God would have wanted to create the thing, another God wanted to destroy that thing or for it not to exist, and so on. You would have contradictions at every turn. But this is an argument looking at the athar, or the effects or the implications or consequences of the proposition or the hypothesis that there could be more than one God. Whereas this argument that we have discussed, coming from this verse, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, it is an internal reason. It is to say that just by nature of being God, there cannot be an equal to God. And this is something very beautiful. And as the Shaykh says, it is an argument that perhaps has not been addressed in the books of creed in the way that it could have.